Anybody?
How often are you playing to be able to play this stuff? Like, are you playing daily for hours, or how to keep up? You're saying like to keep up that speed and endurance. Like, how often are you playing?
Not a lot,
Really?
unfortunately. Well, the snake. This is a bad time. Remember I told you about the snakes? So hatching season just went by.
No.
So that occupies a good deal of my time during this time of year. So when babies are hatching and all that stuff, I don't play drums a lot. In fact, up until I did this first clinic, I don't think I played drums in 2 weeks. And the last clinic I did was the last time I actually played drums. I just hadn't had time. But I try not to think about that stuff. I try not to put it in my mind like, oh God, I hadn't played. Maybe I will come up here and not play doubles at 2:30 perfect. I mean, seriously, how much expectation are we putting on ourselves? Seriously, as drummers. Because we listen to these records, and 99.9% of the records recorded, even the ones that drummers tell you that stuff is not fixed, it's fixed. All of it. It's just, and the bands don't have any control over it anymore. Because the producers have to make that record sound as good as the last one, or else he don't get the next band coming in. And I've had friends of mine, drummers that play in these bands that like, dude, they went through and they put my kicks on a grid and it just sounds unnatural, doesn't sound real. What are you going to do? Ask any of those drummers to come right here and sit down on this kit this very instant to play any of that crap that they play on record. It will not sound anything like it. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's George. I don't care if it's John. I don't care if it's Hellhammer. I don't care. It doesn't matter who it is. When they come and start hitting on these acoustic drums, it does not sound like what it is on that record. And I haven't been proven wrong yet. So, but one day I would love to see that. I would love to see a guy that's that isolated in their playing.
Did you ever work with Scott Burns?
Yeah, we did it in Cold Blood with Scott Burns. Actually, he wasn't even there. We did it with...
Jim Morris?
No, it was Steve, the guitar player from... he played in Asssuck and he was in all types of other different grind bands.
Steve Harris?
Yes. He was the engineer on that record. And Scott basically came in after his day job and sat with his feet up and said, yeah, that sounds good. That was pretty much my experience with Scott Burns.
What year was it?
That was 95 when we recorded it. It came out in 96. Yeah, I mean, back then they didn't have that technology. I mean, yeah, they were sound replacing kicks and they were doing it in real time. This is the thing. Now they got computer programs that did all this. When I did that record, we did it on tape.
Analog.
Yeah, so what they did is they ran that channel out into a sampler and triggered it in real time and recorded it back on another channel. So you had all of this like latency. So like what I mean is like when that note, when you you added that trigger, it turned into, because it was a little later. And those were the issues that we used to have to deal with when recording this stuff and trying to sound replace, because you could hear the kick drums and the overheads that were natural. So it was all types of things we used to battle. Now, you just take that whole line, you highlight it, and you drop it, and you drag it like 4 milliseconds ahead of where it was, and it lines up, you know what I mean? But back then, which is why, they were limited to what they could do from an engineering standpoint on a lot of that stuff. And I do have to compliment Scott for doing as well as he did with some of those bands, because he told us some stories about bands coming in there and trying to do, like they were saying with Harmony Corruption, that Napalm Death record.
Oh, yeah.
It took Mick Harris like 3.5 weeks to do drum tracks on that record. All because he was playing PlayStation.
Mick himself, the engineer.
Yeah, Mick himself. They couldn't get him off PlayStation to come record tracks, so they waited 3.5 weeks trying to record 8 songs, drum tracks. You hear all these stories, about people. It's a fun thing. But, those were good times. It's cool learning about all of that. It's a shame that the music industry has changed so much. Like Moorsound just recently got robbed, and they're thinking it was some type of insurance thing. Because there hasn't been anybody in that studio in years. How are they operating? How are they keeping this place open? Because everybody can go over next door and buy Pro Tools for $500 and become a producer and record stuff in their living room, which is beautiful for us that like to do that stuff. It's cool. I love recording. I'm a gearhead. I cannot help it. I've got more gear than I know what to do with. Just for stupid reasons. I like gear, guitar gear, drum gear, recording stuff. I'm into it. So. All right, questions. Come on. Yo, Forrest.
Yeah, one of the things I really do respect about you is that you're also a creative person. You're an actual artist. I consider you an artist. Can you share, the role of drummers, or shall I say the unassumed or underplayed roles of drummers in the creative process, and what you're working on now?
Well, you know, one thing I've noticed with most drummers is we are the arrangers in our bands. And, you know, a lot of times, if you guys, did anybody know how publishing is split up within a band? Did anybody actually know? Like, have you ever seen a contract and how it's split up if you're not paying attention? All right, say you're a 4-piece band, okay? And you have a drummer, you have a bass player, and you have a guitar player. And your guitar player, let's say he writes everything. He comes to you and says, okay, I got this riff, I got this riff, I got this riff, right? Okay. You know, he may have this riff, but halfway through that riff, we may change it from... The guitar player, he may be playing the same riff, but it was the drummer that turned it into something and made it come alive. You know, and a lot of times we never see any of that. So, okay, so here we go. Drummer, bass player, guitar player writes everything on paper, that's what it says. And you have a singer, okay? Automatically, if you sign a contract in modern day, the singer automatically gets 50% of everything that the band makes. If he writes lyrics, automatically he gets 50%. Okay, so you wonder why bands break up.
Yeah.
Seriously, because even if you're in a successful band, say you're in a successful band, and you're making $100,000 a year, okay, and that sounds nice, you know what I mean? That sounds cool, and you're showing up and you're practicing and you're doing your thing. Yeah, I'm living a pretty good life. We get to tour, make a little bit of money. Singer pulls up in a Lamborghini, a $240,000 car. You can't afford that car. Why can he afford that car? Your paycheck was how much? You know what I mean? You wonder why bands break up. There you go. And that's really as simple as it can get as far as that is concerned. So that's a key element, I think, that needs to happen, because you cannot copyright a drum beat. Right? Anybody remember the Carnival Cruise Line commercial? A couple that had the... Right, from the Iggy Pop song, or whatever it was? Right. So they used that. They didn't even use the song. All it was the drum loop. You never even heard the song. Who got paid for that? Iggy Pop.
Wasn't even there.
Wasn't even there. Wasn't even at the recording session that day. So this is something as players to be aware of, and when you get yourself in band situations, what you need to do. You need to set up with your boys and your band, hey, we need to split this up equally. Singer don't get 50%, he gets 25%. Guitar player gets 25, bass player gets 25, drummer gets 25. If that's something you guys have set up amongst yourself, you won't really run into problems. Problem with that is, anybody see the movie Rocker?
Yeah.
Anybody see that? Okay, that's happened a lot where bands have gone into a situation, you know, under one contract as being what it is, and then under something else, and the singer or the songwriter being like, you know what? If those guys were out of the picture, I can make more money. So they'll get rid of those guys and hire session guys to come in so they can gain control over the band. And I can't tell you how many bands I know that that's happened with personally. You know, I've seen it happen. I've watched guys go through it, you know, and if you're just aware of it, it's like anything else. If you're aware of a problem or a situation, if you can correct it, correct it. But if you're never aware of the problem, you know, that's why I think drummers, we need to keep our ears open and get into that stuff, you know, and really pay attention to what's going on in that world. If that's what you want to do, you know what I mean. What else was that? Was there another part to that?
Yeah, what are you working on creatively?
Right now it's Second Surface Rise. That's what I'm doing. Well, it's a work in progress. I know that. I've been accumulating risk for the last 3 years since I wrote the first one and put that together. So I'm 11 songs in, going back and learning all the guitars and trying to figure out what it was that I recorded originally. And, you know, just adding onto it, writing other guitar parts, getting the bass lines together. Got everything laid out to a click for the most part, so now I got to go back and record drums and just record all of it. And I'm going to give that away for free as well, so you can get that on my website soon enough.